All right. Thanks for joining my live stream. I'm Cameron, and I'm the host of Hermit Radio. So, today, what we're going to be talking about is shifting your perception of the world as you see it and how you think it should be versus how it might actually be in reality. Now, why is that important? When we're talking about perception, perception is reality. You've probably heard that term before. And what that means for everyone else is that when you see things in the world, why do you get upset when something doesn't go the way that you want it to? That's self-explanatory. When things don't go the way that you want it to, you feel like the world's against you. You feel like the world is working against you instead of for you. And that's the main problem right there. Everything in the world is happening as it's supposed to happen at all the times, whether or not it's happening for you or not. So, what this is about is shifting your perception to accept things as they are versus how you want them to be. And this is key. So, here are some things to do that. A very basic thing that you can do is just be aware of this. How to be aware of the fact that maybe something in your life is not happening the way you want it to, and now it's affecting you negatively. For an example, let's talk about like losing your job. Is it the fact that it's that you lost your job that you're feeling this way, feeling negative, sad, depressed, anxiety? You're scared because you don't know if you're going to be able to get another job. And this line of thinking is what is getting in the way of you turning it around and maybe finding something better, seeing it as an opportunity to grow versus seeing it as something that happened to you. So some ways that you can shift that are by meditation. And there's all types of different meditation, but I'm specifically talking about meditating on the fact that you're having this particular situation happen in your life and you want to see it differently. So how do you do that? When you get nice and comfortable, whether you're sitting or laying down, you relax and you close your eyes and you use visualization to help you. You think about the situation as it is, and then you can shift the perception of that to something else. So instead of seeing it as something that happened to you, you can see it as something that maybe it was a new opportunity, a new chance for a new start. Maybe you didn't really like the old job you were at, but it was maintaining you while you were waiting to get to something new, something better. And when you can do that for that one instance, you're actually programming yourself to learn how to be better and do it more often throughout life in general. And when you can do that, it becomes a tool in your everyday life, because this is not necessarily something that is going to be a one-time fix. You're not going to be able to do this one time and then it's going to change your life and fix it. It is something that you will have to continue and repeatedly do over and over again for it to actually mean something for you. So practicing meditation. Another wonderful technique is reflection time. I've done this in my own personal life, setting some time away to just sit down, whether you're in a room by yourself and alone, or if you're sitting at the dinner table and you put music on. Try to do some type of music that is going to relax you, not something necessarily with lyrics, because lyrics will, at least in my personal life, lyrics tend to keep me distracted and I feel like I'm drifting away and not actually getting anything from it. So something like some ambient music, even nature sounds are great for this. But what you're going to do is you're going to sit down from anywhere to 10 minutes to 30 minutes, even an hour, and you sit down with a journal and you observe your thoughts, especially about this one particular situation. If it is just one, or if it's just your life in general, look at it from a life general standpoint. And when you do this, you write down the thoughts that you're having. When they come to you, just write them down. And the other thing that's important is to I like to put a little mark next to them, whether like a plus sign or a minus sign to represent negative and positive thoughts, or an N for neutral. And when you do this, when you're done at the end of the time, look at how many positive thoughts you have versus negative thoughts. And if you do continue to do this every day, try to notice if you start having more positive thoughts or more negative thoughts. And if you're having more negative thoughts, that should be a sign right there. It is the way that you're seeing the situations and the way that you're seeing your life. And that is continuing you down a road of negativity. And that's not the end of the world. That's not necessarily saying that you're a bad person or that you're never going to get out of this. It's actually great because now you're becoming self-aware and you can see this for as it is, and you can start to make changes. So if you are noticing a negative trend in these patterns when you're going back through your reflections, what I would encourage you to do is that the next time you sit down, even though you're observing your thoughts, try to see if you can encourage more positive thoughts than negative thoughts. And as you do this more and more and more, you'll notice the change. You'll actually see it for what it is, and you can adjust. Now, outside of reflection time, if you can do this for 30 minutes a day, you'll actually be able to do it more in life, and you'll be able to go through your whole day and do this. And this is what I'm talking about. If you've listened to my podcast, I've been talking a lot lately about neutrality. This is what I'm talking about as a state of neutrality. What you can do for yourself in a state of neutrality is allow things to happen to you and not react. When you react is when you cause the problem. Reaction and attachment. And attachment, what I mean by that is that literally the three things: thoughts, feelings, people. When we attach to these three things, we set ourselves up for failure. But we're programmed to do it as human beings. This life, this place that we live in, we are programmed to be attached to our phones, to computers, all these things around us, and that's okay. But learning how to live with them and use them in your best interest is the way to set yourself up for success. And whether it's to find happiness or to get out of a rut or to be successful, these are very simple tools that everyday people are using right now. I'm just trying to bring it into a more modern light and practical use for everyone that's watching and listening. So what you can do to start when you're practicing this is you've heard this before, letting go, right? Well, what does that actually mean? What does it mean to let go of the feelings, emotions, and people? If you're having thought patterns that are negative, like I'll never be better than this, or I'll never be successful, I'll never get this job, that's the problem. Go back to that. Work on that thought. And just like in meditation, if you're not a meditating kind of person, you don't need to do it just in meditation. Find some quiet time to reevaluate your life. And this is that time that you can use for this. If you're thinking about these thought patterns and they're always negative, then go back. Why are you assess yourself? This is kind of in like the Eastern tradition, they talk about awareness. This is what awareness is, and this is how you can use it for your best interest. Awareness to a situation. Why am I always negative? I'll use myself as an example. My wife and I, every now and then we'll argue. And when we argue, she says, "You always take things so personally." And one time it actually stuck, and I thought about it, and I asked myself, do I actually see things as everything as she's saying to me is personal? And for whatever reason, I do. And so then I had to think about that. Well, why do I think this way? Why am I programmed to think this way? And if you really dig deep and you do some real self-analysis, you'll see that it comes back all the way from your childhood, from your parents, your friends, your school, the way you were raised and brought up. Sometimes as human beings, we develop this ego, right? That's what makes me, me. This is what makes Cameron, is my personality, my ego. And as you grow up and you learn things, that develops and shapes the person that you are to morph into this person, to morph into Cameron, right? I was a soldier. I did bodybuilding. And now I'm this free thinker that wants to write and do a podcast on all these things. But really, what is that? I'm just wearing a mask. Each time I'm doing this, I'm wearing a mask. I'm changing my ego to fit the personality that I have. And it's a self-protective behavior that we all do. But when you become aware of it, it's less painful, it creates less anxiety, and you feel like you kind of have your life back. And these things that I'm talking about can actually help you do that, to let go. So take an idea that you'll never have money, for example. You'll never make enough money to live, right? So how do we shift our perception, and how do we let go of the old belief? Are you able to pay your bills right now? Are you able to eat right now? If you are able to do those things, is that enough? Because if you really think about it, do you really need more money, or do you have exactly what you need right now and you're just not seeing it that way? Now you may say, well, yes, I can pay my bills, but I'm just barely getting by. But you're getting by. And what I'm allowing you to do, what I'm hoping that you'll get by by hearing this is that when you accept it in those terms, not as the terms that you want, but as the terms that are real in your everyday life, the world as it is, not as you want it to be, you start to become one with the stream of life. When you fight the stream of life and you try to go against the current, you're setting yourself back. But when you go with the current, it becomes more peaceful, becomes less stressful, and there's no resistance. So let go of the way that you think it should be and allow it to be what it is. That is letting go. Some things that you want in life, they may be unrealistic expectations. If you think that everyone is going to love you or everyone is going to treat you this one way, and if they don't, it affects you negatively, you have an unrealistic expectation of life and from other people. No one has to respect you. No one has to love you, and no one has to like you. But you should love yourself and like yourself and treat yourself with the utmost respect anyways, regardless if somebody doesn't like you or doesn't love you or doesn't want to do those things for you. Regardless, do it for yourself, because when you can treat yourself that way, again, you're letting go of the expectation you have around the world and the people around you. When you can do that, you will live freely and you will learn to let go. And then when people around you do like you, love you, and want to spend time with you, then it becomes a bonus. It's not something that you have to have that's going to make your life complete. It's something that you can accept, and then you can embrace people as they come to you. And then anybody that doesn't, you've let go anyways. And so it's not going to bother you. By doing that, you're actually opening yourself up for more of those things, for success, for love, for a better way of living life. These are just some tips and tools that I've used for my own life. I struggled for a long time. After I got out of the military, I felt like I didn't really know how to be a human being. I kind of felt like a used up battery. I'd done my purpose. I did what I needed to do, but now it's over and I don't really know what to do now. Because I lost my identity. I lost my face mask. And without it, I felt lost. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to be. And so then I picked up bodybuilding and I started doing those things. And I started molding my personality to be this person. And eventually that caught up with me too. And I realized I'm just playing another role. I'm just acting. I'm just doing this. And it's not really who I want to be. This isn't what I really want to do. And when I let go of that, it freed my mind. And I actually started to have more time I started to have my thoughts back. I felt like I had my own mind back. And I started asking myself, like, what do I really want from life? What do I really want to do? How can I make an impact? Is that even what I want to do? All I know is that I'm not a soldier anymore. I don't want to be a bodybuilder anymore. I want to be Cameron, whoever that is. And it started down a road of self-exploration to kind of not only learn about myself, but to help myself become the best version of me. I started reading books by Alan Watts and Thich Nhat Hanh, and Ram Dass is the last one I just read. He's a wonderful author. And what all of these people have in common is they talk about liberation and freedom. But what they're really referring to is the liberation and freedom of your mind. And this thing up here that you have, it's so wonderful, but yet we abuse it all the time. We don't use it to its full potential. And when you can use it to your full potential, you will actually get back those feelings you have. If you're feeling anxiety, or if you're feeling depression, or if you feel stuck in a rut, this is one way that you can check this. Analyze your thought patterns and behaviors and see if they're negative or positive. Once you identify that they're negative, you can start to shift them into positives, right? So to counteract a negative thought, it's been said that to use a positive one in place of it. Okay. So let's use this one as an example. If you're always late to work and it's starting to get you in trouble at work, right? You no matter what you do, you continually wake up at the same time and you're continually late to work. But in your mind, you're saying, why does this keep happening to me? I don't mean to be late. I get stuck in traffic. We blame all these other things, right? We blame traffic. We blame the gate guard that took too long. We do all these other things. But really, what does it come down to? It comes down to you not getting up on time to go do what you need to do. So even though it feels uncomfortable, when you identify what the problem is, that gives you the opportunity to change it with a positive action that will reverse it. Start getting up earlier. Do what you need to do because you know it needs to be done, and it's going to lead to a better life. And that's just one small example. When you can identify this all day long and you do this all the time, it becomes natural and you start to flow with the rhythm of life. So again, these three things: thoughts, feelings, people. We need to learn how to let go of those things. So you might be asking yourself, how do we let go of people? All your life, you've probably heard this a million times. The problem is that we don't remember. Even though we see it, we don't remember it. So when people in our lives are negative and we don't necessarily want them in our lives, or we don't know that they're negatively impacting us, this is where you have to do that self-assessment again. If you ever spend time with a friend or family member that's always negative, right? Especially right now in these times, you go on YouTube or Instagram or any of these social media things, and you see these people putting on the complete opposite side of your political view or your complete opposite worldview. You see it, you don't like it, so you're like, oh God, like I hate seeing these things and it bothers me. But what are you doing about that? Are you just going to continue to let it be there? Because guess what? Every time that you scroll past it and see it, it comes up into your head, whether you want it to or not. It is going to be subconscious, and all of your thoughts and feelings and attachments to that particular item are going to show themselves, and you're going to have a negative thought to it. So the goal should be to set yourself up for success. Now, you're not always going to avoid negative things in your life, but you can do your part to minimize them, right? Minimize the things that you have control over and approach everything with a neutral standpoint. That is how you get through it. And then you can choose to be positive about anything when you want to be. Positivity and calmness are like a superpower when you know how to use them. People in your life, if they are directly impacting you in a negative way, and you can do some self-assessment and realize that this is what's happening, you need to have an honest conversation with yourself and with them. Maybe if there's no way to talk to somebody that's causing this kind of negativity in your life, then you just have to cut cords. You have to do what's right for you. To be able to love people in your life, you have to be able to love yourself first. You are the person behind your eyeballs, having your ears, speaking your words. It's your life, right? You are the person in charge of what's going on in your life. You do have family, you have things that directly impact you, but ultimately it's up to you. You don't ever have to talk to those people if you don't want to. The only thing that makes you think that you have to talk to those people or keep these people in your life is your attachment to them. By thinking that they have to be there, by thinking that these friends are always going to be in your life, that is what's keeping you attached to those people. Self-awareness, and then letting go. Maybe you just don't ever talk to them again until they come back to you and want to talk to you. Sometimes that's how it works in life, but you got to take care of you first, and that is how you do that. That is how you let go of those feelings. So really what it comes down to, and what I've been trying to say and talk about on this podcast for a while, is who do you want to be? When you think about who you want to be, what kind of picture comes into your mind? A lot of people would say, oh, I want to be a rock star, or I want to be a movie star, or I just want to be really successful. We have all these thoughts about what we want to be, but sometimes we have zero plan of how we're going to do it. We just think it's a dream. But with some of these tools and concepts, you can make those dreams reality. When you let go of things that are directly negatively impacting you, you open yourself up to other chances in your life for positivity. When you see your job, like you getting fired from your job, as a positive, as a new opportunity, then maybe there will be a new opportunity that you now can see because you're in a different state of mind versus being negative and maybe just staying in bed for 2 weeks because you don't know what to do. That is what I'm talking about. You have the potential to shape your own reality. And these are the things, you've heard that term before. You create your own reality. This is how you do it. Changing your thought patterns, creating positive habits. But to have positive habits, you have to get rid of the negative habits first. Negative habit, sleeping in, not getting up early to go do your job, being judgmental towards everyone around you. That's a big one. We all do that. But that is something that you have control of. You have to practice, and it's not easy to let go of that, but you do need to practice and you can let go of it. Being judgmental. Those are some very easy things in your life that you know of and you're aware of because you do it every day, that you can actively work on. And in that, if you take your life as your job, treat your life as your job and work hard at it, you can become better. You don't have to sit with feelings of anxiety or depression. You can do things to make a difference, and you can do things to shape your new world into what you want it to be. You can choose the people that you let into your life. You can choose the opportunities that you have if you have the right mindset, and you can choose what you do to prepare for new opportunities in the future. This is the part where it does get a little on the woo-woo side, right? Woo-woo. Sometimes you just have to trust. If you're religious, then you have faith. You have faith that God will take care of you. You have faith that inevitably everything will be okay. You have faith that you'll go to heaven if you're a good person on this earth. But for me, I like to have trust in the universe, because everything that is happening happens as it's supposed to happen, good and bad. And that's where coming into a state of neutrality comes into play. But everything happens as it's supposed to, even the negative things, right? What makes it negative or positive is really your attachment to it. Two situations may be very different for one person, but when you look at two separate people having the same situation, they may have two different realities of how it happened, right? You have the one person who got fired from their job, sees it as a negative, and they're depressed for 2 weeks and staying in bed. Then you have this person who got fired from their job and decided that it was an opportunity. They didn't like that job anyways. They want to change what they're doing anyways. So boom, now this person just has, been blasting out job applications to all these places, and now they have all these opportunities coming to them. That's what I'm talking about, and that's what you can do for yourself. Now, this isn't a guaranteed fix for all of your problems, but it's a way to handle them. It's a way to not feel so down all the time, not feel so negative all the time. This is allowing you to take back what's yours. So try this out. Don't take my word for it. Practice it for yourself. These things that I like to do: meditation, reflection time, spending time with your thoughts, right? Creating a plan and writing things out. Write your feelings and thoughts out. That's great. These are things that you would actually do in therapy. And all of those things are possible within you already, and you just have to accept them and do them. And trust the universe, or whatever you have your faith in, because it's out of your control anyways. Whatever happens to you, it's out of your control. You like to think that you have control. We all like to think we have control of a situation. We all like to think that we can change the outcome if we try hard enough or if we prepare hard enough. That's just not the truth. The truth is, everything is as it's supposed to be. And whenever things happen, they are happening as they are supposed to be. Regardless if you have faith in religion or the universal consciousness, whatever it is, or if you think it's all a random mistake and Earth is just here by choice or chance, rather. It all is happening the way it's supposed to happen, especially if there's nothing behind it driving it. If there's no divine intervention, then it really is just happening how it's happening, and there's no escaping that. I wanted to talk about a book that, if you're interested in this and you think that you want to pursue these type of life-changing techniques, this is a really interesting book. This is Alan Watts. This Is It. And it's a compilation of some essays that he wrote on spirituality and Zen and just kind of divine experiences. It's a very interesting perspective, but I really like it. It's very philosophical, but he's saying the same thing that I'm saying. He's using some bit fancier words, and it's in a book versus just me saying it on YouTube, but it's the same thing. We create our own anxiety. We create our own depression. We create all of our own problems right up here. That's the truth. By reacting to things that happen to us and by attachment to them. The only way to escape that is by letting go. The Buddha said the root of all suffering is attachment. And I already explained what attachment is. Attachment is to thoughts, feelings, and people, those things. Before I get off of this, let me just go over a quick summary of the Buddha, because I feel like I talk about it a lot, and maybe some of you might not know what Buddhism is. I am not a practicing Buddhist, but I really appreciate their thoughts and the way that they do things. So the Buddha, The Buddha was actually a person, according to the tradition. Gautama was his name. And when he was born into a wealthy family. He was born to a king. And when Gautama was a baby, his father, the king, took him to a sage. A sage is like kind of like another term for wizard or a really wise elderly person. It's a term often very used back in like medieval times or even before that. Anyway, so the sage told the king, "Your child will either be a great king and a fearless king, or he'll be a really wise, powerful sage." And the king wanted to control the outcome of Gautama's life. So he decided, I want my kid to be a king. I don't want him to be a sage. I want him to be powerful and take over my kingdom when I'm gone. So, knowing what the sage said about Gautama, the king kept his son basically within the confines of their kingdom. He didn't really leave. He was only taught by the sage and by the king and by military personnel. And he was trained in sword fighting, and he was trained in combat tactics and ancient literature. And one day, that same sage that made the prediction about Gautama when he was born took him out for a walk outside of the kingdom one day. And while they were walking, they approached an elderly man on the street. And Gautama had never seen an elderly man that old before. And he asked the sage, his teacher, he said, "What's wrong with this person?" And the sage told him, "He's just very old and his body is starting to decay. As we get older, our bodies decay." And Gautama had never even heard this before. And so he said, "This is real. This happens." And this story is basically a continuation of this. He meets a poor man. He meets some sickly people. He meets some mean people, and it's a continuation of that and these experiences that he never had. And now he's learning and seeing all these different things about different people that he never knew about before. And he became troubled by this. And as he started getting older, he was like, "How do I escape suffering? There's so much suffering in the world. How can I end it for everyone?" And he could never come up with an answer. No sage could teach him. Nobody in his kingdom could teach him. Now he's an adult. He's got a wife and kids, and he's got the whole kingdom to himself. And he still can't find the answer to end suffering. So he leaves everything behind. He lets go of everything. He lets go of his family. He lets go of his kingdom. And he goes to the woods and he finds a tree and he says, "I'm not going to leave until I find the root of suffering and I can find a way to fix it." So he sits under a tree for 40 days and meditates until what they call spontaneous enlightenment happened. And then when he arose from it, all of the, according to the tradition, all of these different things happened. But the basic story and the concept of what it's trying to explain is that Gautama found a way to end suffering by ending attachment to things in your everyday life. Very grand, big gesture, big story, but on the smaller scale, that's what they're saying. Let go of attachment, take back this, take control of this, because this is a tool and it's a God-given gift and you can use it to shape your life and shape your reality. But thank you guys. I appreciate everybody that supports the channel and has been listening to the podcast. I do plan to do more streams like this in the future. If there's something that you would like to hear, or if you have questions or comments, go ahead and leave them in the comment section, or feel free to reach out to me on social media. But for now, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys.